dive into the turbulent waters of the past to understand the genesis of the Gaza-Israel conflict. The roots of this conflict stretch back to the early 20th century in the year of 1917 when the Balfour Declaration was made. This declaration, drafted by the British government, expressed support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. At that time, the region was under British control, and the declaration sparked a significant influx of Jewish immigrants to Palestine, stirring tensions between the existing Arab population and the newcomers. Fast forward to 1948. Amidst growing unrest, the State of Israel was established as a homeland for Jewish people, resulting in a mass exodus of Palestinian Arabs. This event, known as the Nakba, or catastrophe in Arabic, marked a significant turning point in the escalating conflict. Then came the pivotal year of 1967, when the Six-Day War broke out. During this brief but intense conflict, Israel managed to seize control of several territories, including the Gaza Strip, originally administered by Egypt. The aftermath of the war led to a significant shift in the geopolitical landscape. The United Nations Security Council passed Resolution 242, calling for Israel to withdraw from the occupied territories. But the resolution's ambiguous wording left room for differing interpretations, and the withdrawal never fully materialized. This period in history marked the beginning of a long, tortuous struggle. The ongoing occupation of the Gaza Strip by Israel, coupled with the lack of a clear path to peace, planted the seeds of a complex and deeply rooted conflict. From the Balfour Declaration's promise of a Jewish homeland to the establishment of Israel and its subsequent occupation of Gaza, these historical events have shaped the conflict's trajectory, leaving an indelible mark on the lives of those caught in its crossfire. Thus, the seeds of conflict were sown, leading to a bitter struggle that persists to this day. It's time to shed light on the humanitarian crisis that has gripped Gaza. Imagine waking up each day not knowing if you'll have access to clean water or if you'll find work. This is the grim reality for many in Gaza due to a blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt. The blockade, a response to the political dynamics in the region, has led to a severe humanitarian crisis that has persisted for over a decade. The blockade's impact on Gaza's economy is nothing short of devastating. With the flow of goods and people severely restricted, unemployment rates have skyrocketed. In fact, in the last few years, nearly half of Gaza's population has found themselves without work. It's a crushing blow, particularly for the youth, who, despite their education and ambition, find themselves trapped in a cycle of joblessness and poverty. But the economic impact is just one facet of this crisis. The blockade has also triggered a water crisis of unimaginable proportions. The majority of Gaza's population lacks access to clean, safe drinking water. The existing water infrastructure is badly damaged due to repeated conflicts, and the blockade makes it nearly impossible to carry out necessary repairs or improvements. As a result, many Gazans are forced to rely on unclean, unsafe water, putting them at risk of waterborne diseases. The frequent conflicts have also wreaked havoc on Gaza's infrastructure. Schools, hospitals and homes have been reduced to rubble, and the blockade means that rebuilding is a slow, grueling process. It's a situation that leaves many Gazans living in conditions that most of us would find unimaginable. As we delve into the realities of life in Gaza, it's difficult not to be moved by the resilience and strength of its people. They continue to endure, to hope, and to fight for a better tomorrow. But their resilience should not absolve the world of its responsibility to act. The blockade has turned Gaza into what many describe as the world's largest open-air prison. Behind the numbers and statistics are real people with real stories of loss and despair. As we delve deeper into the heart of this conflict, it's crucial to understand the human cost involved. Each casualty, each loss is a story untold, a life cut short, a family shattered. The casualties in this conflict are not just numbers on a page. They are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, friends, and neighbors. In the past decade alone, thousands of innocent lives have been lost. The majority of these casualties are civilians, ordinary people, going about their daily lives, caught in the crossfire of a battle they did not choose. It's a disheartening reality that a significant portion of these casualties are children and young people who had their futures stolen from them. Consider this: the children of Gaza, many under the age of 10, have already witnessed more violence and bloodshed than most people will in their entire lives. The psychological impact on these young minds is immense. They grow up in an environment of fear and uncertainty, where the sounds of laughter are often drowned out by the sounds of explosions. The trauma experienced by these children often leads to severe emotional and mental health problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues are rampant among these young souls. They are forced to grow up too fast, their innocence lost to the harsh realities of conflict. And it's not just the lives lost, but also the lives irreversibly altered by this conflict. The injured, the maimed, those who carry the physical and emotional scars of this war, they too are part of this narrative of loss and despair. These losses ripple through communities, creating waves of grief and trauma that can last for generations. Each casualty, each loss is a black mark on the canvas of humanity, a grim reminder of the cost of conflict. As we reflect on these casualties and losses, let's remember that these aren't just numbers, but lives cut short and futures stolen. The world watches on as the conflict rages. But what has been the international response? As the situation in Gaza continues to unfold, the international response has been varied, with some nations taking a stance, while others remain neutral or silent. Key players include the United Nations, the International Criminal Court, and individual countries, each with their own unique viewpoints and actions. The United Nations, a global organization committed to maintaining international peace and security, has been actively involved in the conflict. It has issued numerous resolutions and statements calling for an end to violence and urging respect for human rights. Yet, critics argue that these efforts have fallen short, highlighting the lack of enforcement and the inability to prevent ongoing atrocities. The International Criminal Court, an institution established to prosecute the perpetrators of the world's most serious crimes, has also been thrust into the spotlight. The court has launched preliminary examinations, and potential investigations could be on the horizon. However, critics point to the slow progress and question whether justice can truly be served in such a complex and politically charged situation. Individual countries have also played a significant role in shaping the international response. Some nations have voiced strong support for the people of Gaza, condemning the violence and calling for a ceasefire. Others, however, have been criticized for their perceived bias, with accusations of favoritism and a failure to hold all parties accountable. These criticisms underscore a common theme. The international response, in the eyes of many, has been inadequate and biased. Critics argue that the efforts to address the crisis have been insufficient, marked by a lack of urgency and a failure to prioritize human rights. They point to the continued suffering of the people of Gaza, the ongoing violence, and the lack of accountability for those responsible. Despite these criticisms, the international community continues to grapple with the situation, seeking ways to bring about a resolution. The path forward is uncertain, fraught with challenges and complexities, yet the need for action is clear. The call for justice and peace remains largely unanswered. Awareness is the first step towards change, but it shouldn't stop there. Each one of us has the power to make a difference, to shift the course of this narrative. It begins with education. Learn about the crisis, the history, the people. Understand the conflict in its full complexity beyond the headlines. The reality is not black and white. It's layered, it's nuanced, and it's deeply human. Once you've done that, share what you've learned. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues. Use social media to spread the word. Remember that every conversation you have about Gaza is an opportunity to shed light on a situation that is often misunderstood. But don't stop at conversation. Translate those words into action. Support the organizations that are on the ground, providing much needed aid to the people of Gaza. There are numerous non-governmental organizations that are working tirelessly to supply food, water, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. They are the ones who see the human faces behind the conflict and strive to alleviate their suffering. However, financial support is just one aspect. These organizations also need political backing to effectively carry out their work. Advocate for them. Write to your political representatives, urging them to support humanitarian aid to Gaza. Remind them that behind every policy decision, there are human lives at stake. Furthermore, support peaceful resolutions. Encourage dialogue, understanding, and respect between different parties. Remember, peace is not just the absence of war, but the presence of justice. And lastly, don't lose hope. Change may be slow, but every step forward is a step towards a better future. Every conversation, every dollar donated, every letter written, it all adds up. It's a collective effort, and your contribution matters. It's time to make a difference. Stand up for justice. Stand up for Gaza.